Hello everyone, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. It's Friday, May the 5th. I'm Batsirin Namshar. Our top stories for News Mongolia. Speakers of Mongolia and Hungary held official talks. Monitoring the quality and safety of drinking water in Mongolia is not sufficient. Over the last 3 years, the occurrence of cybercrime increased threefold. For the news, stay tuned. The delegation from Hungary, led by the Speaker of the National Assembly of Hungary, Laszlo Kövér, is paying an official visit to Mongolia from May 4th until May 7th. On Thursday, the Speaker of the Parliament of Mongolia, Tsandan Shatar, and his spouse greeted Speaker Laszlo Kövér and his spouse Maria Beck at Sukhbari Square. After paying their respects to the statue of Chinggis Khan, the dignitaries proceeded to the Bagnat Hall of the Government Palace, where Laszlo Kövér signed the guest book and shared his comments.
The official talks between the two speakers then commenced at Government Palace, where they discussed topics such as bilateral relations, inter-parliamentary cooperation, and other relevant matters. At the beginning of the meeting, the Mongolian speaker emphasized the importance of Hungary as an Eastern European partner for Mongolia and a continuously active mutual cooperation even during difficult times. He also highlighted the significance of inter-parliamentary cooperation in expanding bilateral relations, creating a favorable legal environment, and enriching cooperation in areas of mutual interest. The Mongolian speaker expressed his willingness to work towards reviving cooperation between the respective secretariats and sharing experience through the exchange of staff. He also requested to establish direct relations between the research institutes under the Office of the Parliament of Mongolia and the Information Service Center of the National Assembly of Hungary, and to conduct joint academic research. The Speaker of the National Assembly of Hungary expressed his appreciation for the warm welcome and invited the Speaker of Parliament Tsandan Shatar and members of the Mongolian Hungarian Parliamentary Group to visit Hungary at their convenience. He noted the importance of expanding economic relations and increasing trade turnover while focusing on accelerating student exchange programs. The Hungarian speaker expressed his full support for the proposals and initiatives of his Mongolian counterpart and articulated his determination to facilitate cooperation in education, agriculture, tourism, and animal husbandry. Both parties expressed their confidence that Mongolian students studying in Hungary will act as a bridge connecting the people of the two countries and make a tangible contribution to the development of traditional friendly relations and cooperation. They also acknowledged that the 30-day visa-free visitation period for Hungarian citizens in Mongolia has become an important impetus for the development of tourism.
In recent years, the quality and safety of surface water, underground water and soil in Mongolia have not met the required standards, resulting in the population being unable to have access to safe drinking water. Therefore, the government is working towards ensuring that at least 90% of the population has access to hygienic and safe drinking water.
In 2019, 117 out of 330 households in the Bainzurg district of Ulaanbaatar were found to have Escherichia coli bacteria, known as E. coli, in the water supply due to the absence of centralized quality water supply system. This is a clear example of inadequate monitoring of drinking water. In recent years, old and corroded water pipes as well as unmonitored underground wells have become increasingly common. Officials emphasize that providing the population with access to safe drinking water is a priority goal in Mongolia.
Some suburbs of the city and newly built condominium buildings are using drinking water from ground wells that are not connected to the central network and are not being monitored and disinfected. Additionally, the level of certain chemical elements, such as fluoride, is low. There are several issues that need to be addressed, such as the lack of professional oversight over water distribution facilities in the towns and neighborhoods of the Kashurt area. The implementation of a proper water safety plan is about 70% complete. There are instances where the water quality does not meet requirements when it finally reaches consumers. All wells must have a certificate approved by the Department of Environment, but implementation of this law is insufficient. Some people just dig wells in their yards and then assume they are drinking healthy groundwater when in fact it's just soil water that may not conform to quality and safety standards.
The quality of surface water, underground water, and soil in urban areas of Mongolia often exceed permissible standards, indicating that the right of citizens to live in a healthy and safe environment is being violated. This was emphasized during the discussion.
For instance, the high incidence of digestive tract diseases among the population in the Gobi region may be related to the quality of the water. Researchers have shown that environmental risk factors can contribute up to 25% to human health risks.
By 2050, the government has set a goal that 90% of the population will have access to safe drinking water that meets all hygienic requirements.
Cybercrime is a growing concern in today's interconnected world. It refers to criminal activities that are carried out over the internet or other digital devices. Cybercriminals use a range of techniques such as hacking, phishing, malware, and ransomware to steal sensitive information, compromise systems, and extort money from victims. Over the last 3 years, the number of cybercrime occurrences in Mongolia increased threefold. Currently, 52 cybercrime cases involving a total of 40 million MNT worth of damage are under investigation.
The impact of cybercrime can be devastating to individuals, businesses, and governments. It can result in financial loss, reputational damage, and legal consequences. Cybercriminals can target anyone from individuals to large corporations, and the consequences of a successful attack can be severe.
Citizens and victims usually think that it's enough to track the receiving account when they lose money. Sadly, after investigation, it occurs that those people are also victims who don't have any link related to cybercriminals.
To combat cybercrime, it is important to take measures to protect oneself online. This includes using strong and unique passwords, keeping software up to date, and avoiding clicking on suspicious links or downloading files from unknown sources. Businesses and governments also have a responsibility to take cybersecurity seriously and implement appropriate measures to protect their networks and data.
If someone asks you to lend them some money, please verify. You can call your friends and ask for clarification. In addition, if your friends or colleagues give you someone else's account through a message, please be vigilant, as it might be suspicious.
Law enforcement agencies in Mongolia are also working to tackle cybercrime, but it can be a difficult task due to the nature of the internet and the anonymity that it provides. Therefore, it is important for individuals and organizations to remain vigilant and take proactive steps to protect themselves against cyber threats.
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. You're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. Now let's take a look at international news from our partner agencies. A federal police operation in Brazil has netted over 6,000 illegal weapons and led to at least 49 arrests. The operation was aimed at removing illegal weapons from gun owners who do not meet the legal requirements to own firearms. It's part of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's program to reduce the number of guns in civilian hands, which nearly tripled during the previous administration of Jair Bolsonaro, according to the non-profit organization data.
On his first day in office, Lula issued a decree requiring gun owners to register their weapons with the federal police. The deadline ended on Wednesday. Brazil's Minister of Justice Flávio Dino said during a news briefing Thursday that 6,168 weapons with restricted use were not registered and the owners will suffer the legal consequences. Flávio Dino also announced Thursday 49 people have been arrested for illegally owning weapons and pledged more arrests are likely as the program to curb illegal weapons gains pace in the coming months. At Rio's federal police headquarters, officers have registered guns belonging to as many as 50 people per day, but many were wary. Before the registration initiated by Lula's government, the army gathered and retained data on gun ownership for sport shooters, collectors, and hunters known as CACs. Echoing aspects of American conservatism, Bolsonaro was the first Brazilian presidential candidate to campaign on a pro-gun platform saying good citizens are entitled to firearms to protect their families and assets. He altered the rules for how much ammunition one can possess and access to restricted caliber guns, such as submachine guns, and repeatedly claimed that an armed population will never be enslaved. Bolsonaro scrapped the requirement for such registrants to undergo the arduous process of submitting documentation, justification, and psychological exams to the federal police, which for its part registers guns owned for self-defense and so limited the force's visibility on the total number of guns in circulation. By requiring in-person registration, the new government hopes to determine precisely how many guns and what types are no longer with their original owners and potentially in the hands of criminal groups.
The final touches were being put in place on Thursday ahead of the coronation of King Charles III at the weekend, with bouquets of brightly colored flowers arriving at London's Westminster Abbey.
The flowers were sourced from the 4 nations that make up the United Kingdom: England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, according to Shane Connolly, the designer in charge of arranging the flower displays. The royal couple also requested that all the plants came from sustainable sources.
They would have wanted no flowers at all if they weren't sustainable. They don't. Yeah, that would just be that was unquestionable, and that's what I am passionate about too. So there wasn't a second that I wouldn't have thought that. Achieving it, well, the 6th of May, we knew the date from about December, so that achieving it was then thinking, well, what can we get at that time of year that will be really good?
Connolly was involved in designing the flower arrangements for Charles and Camilla's wedding in 2005, as well as the wedding of Prince William and Kate in 2011. Asked whether any of the arrangements for the coronation had any particular significance, he said that the display included branches from beech trees planted by the late Queen Elizabeth II and her husband Prince Philip.
Well, the thing that I find most touching historically is that there are branches of beech which were cut from 2 trees planted by the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh at RHS Wisley. And I find that very touching that the King's parents planted those trees, and now they have cut a few branches of them for us to have in the Abbey for his coronation.
Millions in Britain will watch broadcasts when Charles is crowned in Westminster Abbey in front of hundreds of attendees from around the world. Tens of thousands will line the streets, and neighborhoods across the country will hold parties.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you next week with more news and updates. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.